Alright everybody, so before we get into things, I've just got a little bit of a dialogue I want to open with you guys. 1.0 is on the horizon, of course, September 10th. Mark it in your calendars. Satisfactory 1.0 will be releasing. As of currently recording, we actually know very little about the game. A lot of people have been asking me, what are you going to do? 1.0, is it going to be a new series? Are you going to do a new start? Are you going to be streaming? Is this going to continue? What's going to happen? And unfortunately, I just really don't know. I don't know because we don't have that much information about what 1.0 is really going to entail. So far, we know that the map is going to change. There's some extra nodes, some nodes are being removed, and then the numbers might change on certain recipes that seem to be geared towards the mid to late game. I suppose they're probably going to add a tier 9 and a tier 10. That'd be my guess. Something for the SAM ore. And we've seen little hints of new machines and items that are on the belts in the little various teaser trailer we've just seen. So, I don't have enough to go on. I'm sure in a few weeks it'll become more clear or not whether I really need to restart. But of course, if I restart, I kind of have to just do a lot of what I did again. However, I'm thinking of one thing that I would try to make it different, right? So I wouldn't just build all the same factories again. I would perhaps start somewhere different and then also try to build a mega base. So that's an option. Just everything in one big place. That at least would differentiate it from this one. And maybe this could continue in its own form with smaller videos on individual factories or something. Just a maybe. Let me know. I really am just going to be basing it off what you guys want me to do. And don't just go off my suggestions there. If you have any suggestions of your own, whether it even just be wait and see for now, just let me know in the comments. Right, so what are we doing today? I have the to-do list on the right-hand side of the screen. And a little behind the scenes is that we want to make heavy modular frames, right? Heavy modular frames is what I want to work on. I'm going to go with this recipe here, alternate recipe number 2. It uses concrete instead of screws, or screws aren't active in this. There's a few things instead of screws. You could say it's steel pipes. So modular frames, encased industrial beam, steel pipes, and concrete. We're going to go with that recipe. It's pretty damn good. However, there's a few things that we need to get in position before we can actually get this up and running. For one, my modular frame factory that we have right now only produces 6.66 recurring per minute. Very low. We set it up very early on. It's not even enough to make just this have one manufacturer running right now. So obviously we need to set up new modular frame production, which I'll probably do using steel pipes, which we'll get to in just a moment. The next one is the encased industrial beams. Again, I think I make about 6 per minute, something like that. Very low amount. But I've got the potential now in this video to make 150, I want to say. Yes, 150, I was just checking my notes. So 150 per minute. And we're going to be doing that. The entire to-do list on the right-hand side of the screen is actually to do with just setting up the encased industrial beams. And I was going to leave it at that and be like, that seems like a lot for one video. I have to change how trains work. I have to place several refineries, get concrete going, move it to another factory through trucks, build assemblers, all that kind of stuff, and then finally get the encased industrial beams running. But I kind of thought it was a bit boring. It's like, it's a lot of stuff, but it's not very sexy. You know, it's like, hey, I'm going to modify a factory to add this one thing into it. It's like, be a lot cooler if we tried to push ahead for the heavy modular frames, no? It just means it's going to entail a lot. So we have to do both the modular frames and the encased industrial beams and bring it to a place where we can then make the heavy modular frames themselves. And that also requires getting a little bit of concrete together. The one thing we actually have is the steel pipes. We've got plenty of those. Won't have to make any amendments there. So I'm just going to wing it. We're going to see how much we can get done. I'm going to really push hard to get the heavy modular frames, but it might result in a lot of cuts in the video. But we'll try to explain things as we go. So, with all that out of the way, the preamble, we'll hop into me little explorer here and get going. So this is a factory. This is the silica factory that I'm now calling the silicon factory. So you wouldn't have seen any of this be built, other than the machines themselves, but I mean the cosmetics. I did that myself, and I was on a stream where we added a modification to this place. So I'm just going to talk through that very quickly. It's the only stream that I've done so far where I actually make changes to the factory itself and add new products. We're now making circuit boards and computers in this factory. And then I did all the cosmetics off stream. So very quickly, this is the kind of bit you would have seen before if you watched the silica episode. So all of these assemblers that are in rows here, they're all taking in raw quartz and limestone, and just putting out silica. So we've got a huge amount of silica all the way down at the very end there, just going into awesome sinks. But one of the belts actually travels upstairs. So let's go follow that. And yes, I'm using hyper tubes to get around these factories because they're really long. So I don't mind a little bit of staircase shenanigans, but just to cover long hallways, I think it makes sense. So this is the bit you wouldn't have seen if you didn't see the stream. It's fairly straightforward. It is a long line of assemblers and a long line, well, not that long of a line, of manufacturers, 7 in total. The new thing is the copper Caterium factory sky bridge that is sending over copper sheets and quick wire into this factory. So let's have a look at the circuit board production first. Right, so as you can see, not all of it is powered on right now. Again, that's just because all of this is being built with the 780 belts in mind, and we're currently at 480. So once it gets upgraded, we can utilize the full whack of everything. So basically, the silica that's traveling up from one of the rows downstairs, just one of the rows, which I think is 603 per minute in total. Obviously, we're at 480 belt speed right now. Not all the machines are online, so it's a little nerfed number, but eventually it'll be 606 or 603, one of the others. It's in the logic document. I've updated it, and provided it, God, I can't speak, at whatdarrenplays.com/satisfactory. So the numbers are accurate and they're there. I just don't have them open right in front of me right now. Anyways, so that's being fed into these assemblers, as is the copper sheets. And then basically we're just churning out the circuit boards. Here we have a smart splitter. So basically the main amount of circuit boards is going around and into the manufacturers down there. And then any overflow is going into this container and then subsequently into that awesome sink. Yeah, you can see that this area is not fully done yet. I'm going to add on to this building even further. In fact, I might do the heavy modular frames right here. And we'll talk about that later as we get to it. But that's why the upstairs part is still left open and there's room for expansion out the back. And these awesome sinks are sort of just temporary to keep everything flowing, which is working well. Okay, so that's the circuit board production. Pretty straightforward. Copper sheet, silica combined to make silicon circuit boards. Now, those circuit boards travel along into these manufacturers. One change this factory has is it now has a truck station downstairs that takes in rubber. So that's the rubber line there that's coming straight into our manufacturers. The rubber is being produced over at my petroleum coke factory, 600 per minute. And I can't remember exactly how much is needed here, but we could just check that really quickly. It's not very much, I think. 45 per minute, so 45 times, there will be 7 of these. So we could say 300, maybe half or thereabouts. Half the amount of the rubber that we produce is coming here, or will be designated to come here to make the computers. Alright, so the rest of it is quick wire, circuit boards, and rubber. That's it, right? So the rubber is coming in, the quick wire is coming from the copper Caterium factory, and the circuit boards being made right in front of us. So as we are not at 780 belt speed just yet, this one and this one are currently powered down. So that's normal. All the others are running at 100%. That's actually, I've done 7 based on the amount of quick wire these demand. They require 105 quick wire per minute. Obviously with a belt speed of 780 divided by 105, you can only have about 7 of these machines, maybe 8. But also I think circuit boards would be my limiting factor as well. So currently this is what this place makes. We make 1,866 silica, just about 50 circuit boards, and 17 computers per minute. So that's the factory. That's everything it's doing right now. That's what you may have missed. Again, if you're still following along and building along or want to build along, all the production files, the floor plan, and the save file, it's all available, so you can now do it. And if you're catching up to this video in the from since a while since it's been out, you'll have a more complete factory to build if you're not actively building along. All right, so we'll just hop back downstairs. And we'll get back in our buggy. We're going to be going over there to build our encased industrial beams. I just wanted to show this off very quickly. And it's super cool. I'm really happy with it anyway. So we'll talk beams once we get back in the vehicle. Alright, so here we are at the petroleum coke factory. So again, for a refresher, this is what this place makes right now. So I've added a little bit of extra cosmetics just here for the drive-in to go pick things up. So as you can see, number 1 is plastic, 2 is rubber, 3 is steel beams, and 4 is steel pipes, and then 5 is where you kind of come out. Or not even 5, just 0, whatever. I've left some containers there for different things that I'll need for today's episode. We can have just a quick drive-in. So rubber is the only thing that's currently active. A truck drives in and picks up the rubber here and then just banks to the right and then goes out that little exit that we just showed. So I'll just leave this parked over Actually, I'll park it up here. Alright, finding parking is a bit of a nightmare, but here we are. So let's talk through the proposed changes to this factory. So basically, I'm going to stop producing steel beams. I'm going to use up every bit of steel beam we have in this factory and turn it into encased industrial beams. So we currently make 600 per minute. It travels along 2 belts at 300 per minute evenly. We'll have a look at it in a moment, but here's the encased industrial beam recipe. Now we're going to be using this one, obviously with the steel pipe. So it requires 24 steel pipe per minute and 30 concrete per minute, producing 6 encased industrial beams per minute. So if we already have 600 steel beam, we divide that by 24, that's 25 machines. And then 25 machines times the 6 output that we get is 150. So we should be able to get 150 out. The only question is, how much concrete is that? Well, it's 25 machines times the 30 concrete, which means we need a belt of 750, or no, we don't need a belt of 750. You could do it on one belt, I guess, in the future, but we'll probably use 2 different belts, bringing in 750 concrete into this place. Now, that's concrete, not limestone. So my proposed changes here is to modify our train line, because it just so happens that this train brings in all of the iron ore from just that platform kind of over there. That's where a lot of iron deposits are. But there's also 3 limestone deposits. Now, in order to make 750 concrete, let's just have a quick look at how much limestone would we need. Yeah, so here we are, the wet concrete recipe. So this is the one I'm going to be using. It's very efficient, it's quite good, and it's easy enough to set up because it just requires water. Obviously it does use refinery, so it's a bit heavy on the power demand, but otherwise still pretty good. So normally 45 limestone would go into 15 concrete. You lose a lot of the limestone, the raw resource, but this one you retain a lot more of it. It's 120 to 80, so it's much better. You retain the most of it if you can mix in the silica, but silica is kind of hard to produce and much more rare because raw quartz isn't as frequent on the map. So we'll close that one for now, although we'll come back to that later. The little bit of concrete we need for heavy modular frames, I'll probably use that recipe for that. So we're going to stick with this one. So how much are we going to need? Well, basically we need 750 concrete, right? So we need 750 concrete. That means we need 1,125 limestone and 937.5 water. And again, this information will all be provided in the whatdarrenplays.com/satisfactory link, and you can go check out the little diagrams we have for that, or maybe I'll even put them on screen every now and then, where it makes sense. Because this is a modification to this place, so I've only had to modify the current production map ever so slightly. So when looking at this build and thinking, okay, if we want to bring in the concrete then, it probably makes sense to set up the 10 or so refineries out there and just ship the concrete in. That gives us less volume to add onto the train. Which would just be good for the existing building that we have, not having to change too much. Now we do have all this empty space up here, which is perfect, because it's hard to see, but in there is where our steel pipes and our steel beams are rolling along. So out here is, if we could just feed up that concrete, we can build the 25 required assemblers to make the encased industrial beams. So that's kind of what I plan on doing. So finding maybe in a big long row like this, something like that could work out quite nicely, because if we take this stairwell straight down, we can see that this is exactly where the train is. So this is perfect, actually, because this train is going to move out of this area, and we're going to begin the process right now. So I just wanted to get clear of that area there. Okay, cool. So I'm going to cut that now. This says Coke Factory Import. We can delete that. We'll put down a new freight platform. And this one could be the actual train station again. And we'll call this Coke Factory Import. Cool, so this is all well and good, but one problem obviously is that now concrete is going to be trying to get into this one, so we just have to match it on the other side and make sure that we have... sorry, did I say concrete? I meant iron ore. Iron ore is going to be attempting to get into here, so we just have to match it on the other side to prevent that from happening, and just control the train coming back here just in case it tries to happen. Alright, so I've just pulled the train out of the station, so we can make some modifications to it, and also we need to make sure that this freight car is not carrying any more iron ore, so I'll have to empty my inventory and just move it to the back in a moment. So the first thing, I suppose, is just adding a new freight car onto the back, and then I suppose just dumping my inventory very quickly so I can pick up all that iron and throwing it into the back as well. Alright, there we go. I've stored that in the back. Now we have an empty carriage at the front. That's what we would like to see. But before we set this on its way, just to continue making sure that, the factory is still operational, I don't want it to be paused for too long. Although I could have powered it down, I guess. What we'll do here, same thing, right? We got to cut that, and I got to cut this, and push this forward. What am I missing? I'm missing motors. Oh yeah, because I threw everything in here. That's why. Alright, yep. So a new freight platform, and then the actual train station itself, facing the right way. I'm going to have to modify the railway itself. Alright, so yeah, now I can cut this, and we can extend this out just a little bit further. Gotta love blueprints, man. Oh, it just makes things so much quicker. How good is that? Alright, we could just manually copy this little piece. Alright, there we go. So we're back the way we were. And this will be the Coke Factory export. And just to make sure that this will be hooked up correctly, although it doesn't need it right now, just say the train setting is to load here. It'll have to be to unload on the other side, but it's empty right now anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem. Now this will also just need to be connected. Alright, cool. So the area has power again, meaning the machines can turn back on and keep continuing to load up this place. So all that's happened is I've just inserted one freight platform right behind the front, made sure to match that down there, and now we can let the trains do their thing. So the Coke iron delivery, we can now edit the timetable. Their stops have gone, so we don't have to be on the train to do this, which is always nice. You just say yep and yep. So Coke Factory import, Coke Factory export, doesn't matter which way you do it, just go. Nice, and he's off. Alright, great. So let's now get to work. So that's basically the train modification done, I would say. Next is going to be the placement of the refineries out here. Alright, so for the placement of the refineries, I want it down near water level. That way the pipes won't need any pumps. Just saving a tiny, tiny little bit of power, but people will get pretty anal about that, if I was to use a gamer term. So yeah, to avoid that, we'll just make sure that we build it right around here. I think we can clear these with nobelisks. That's what I like to see. Oh, I just realized something. I don't have to blow these up. We can chop them down. We can throw that stuff into our liquid biofuel factory, of course, so I'll save the bombs for later. Alright, so we've got a flat concrete mass right now. I was just checking if this was the right height for the miner. It seems like it's perfect, actually, so 4-meter foundation here just worked totally fine. Alright, rather nicely. I was just testing out really quickly if I needed to make a new blueprint for this area, but I don't. Already have one that's pretty much fitting for this, which is the Refinery 3, 2 in, 1 out. So 3 refineries with both inputs hooked up and material output hooked up. Takes in a liquid and material, puts out a material. So I've actually noticed there's no output hooked up, so a little bit of a fail on my part for that blueprint. Not that it matters, we'll just do that ourselves. But yeah, the water and the material going in the back is totally fine. Might upgrade the belt or whatever, but I'm just going to go ahead with this blueprint rather than make a new one and start laying these out. So we need 10 in total. Now I just realized something with the placement of these. I'm just going to move this. Oh, well, let's imagine that that's facing the other direction, and we're going to go further out this way with the concrete, because I need a bit more room behind me. Maybe to about here, to just where the water level is. And hopefully that's not too high off the water. It's really close to being that, like, 10-meter headlift, free headlift. It looks like we're just about going to make it, but it's really close. We'll just have to see. If we need to pump, it needs a pump, but I would have rathered it didn't. But I wanted to also clear some of the little hills and dunes that were kind of here, so this height is pretty good. So hopefully it's just not too bad above sea level. Okay, so what we're going to start with is the blueprint I mentioned earlier. Just going to rotate it so that we're facing the inputs at the back. And we'll pop it into that corner here. Just make sure the center is aligned with the center of a foundation. That can just make turns and logistics a little easier. So we'll just pop one down right here. And then another one right next to it. Then we're going to go forward, making sure we leave enough room for these guys to get out. So we'll start somewhere like here. Alright, looks like we're good. So we'll just do another one of these. So the reason I'm breaking them into 2 different rows is because we need over 1,000 limestone, so obviously no belt speed is good enough for that. So we might as well divide it in two anyway. Also, we only need 10. I've gone with 12, so I'm just going to cut away the first in each line here. Alright, so just like that, we've got 10 refineries in place, and they weren't blueprinted to have the recipe, so I'll just do that myself. So select the recipe, we're going to go with wet concrete. Copy that setting, and we'll just apply it to all of them for now. Okay, and then we just have to join the pipes together. It's all good. And around on this side too, as well as the belts. Right, so I'm just making some changes here. This is why I didn't want to blueprint it, because it has to be kind of custom anyway. So just going to get rid of the belts that are underneath here. So what we've got now is a splitter that's taking in from the right. This one's taking in from the right. This is going to be a merger, aiming straight out the middle. This one's taking in now from the left, and this one's taking in now from the left. So just get rid of that, this, all of these. I'll have to redeploy the... So what do we actually need? 120. So we need Mark II. Well, they are Mark II anyway, but I'm just going to get rid of these ones. So, because a maxed out normal node for limestone does 300 per minute, that can feed 2.5 machines. So we'll use a splitter for number 1, splitter for number 2, and then for the half, the remainder that continues on here, it can go into a merger, because the same is going to be happening on the other side. Another normal node's going to feed from this side. So that should work out, where the middle machine just gets the 2 remnant 0.5 left over from the machines. Right, so one of our deposits is there on the edge of the beach, the other one is here, and this is where our iron and everything else is. So I'm ultimately trying to get it over there. It's a bit awkward with the big cliff thing in the way. But I guess I could just bring it up and bring it along the dunes and across, just build a sort of a concrete walkway to carry it out that way, I guess. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the logistics part is now done, at least for the limestone, so not for the water just yet. So out in the distance we have 2 iron deposits. These are supplemental deposits to this build. They're not quite necessary once we get the appropriate upgrades. So a Mark III miner, Mark V belts, these can all be cut off. And the same is true for the extra limestone node which we have right there. You can see it's not powered right now, but using stackable poles, I just put a belt on top of one of the existing belts, so the iron is traveling along just fine. And that one on the left now will be, in good time, will be limestone traveling along here, going into our factory. So following this, all of the limestone nodes are doing 300 each. We need 11, let's see exactly what we need, 1125, so 1125. So we're going to be able to do 1200, right? So we'll underclock, or not fully overclock one of the limestone nodes just to make that correct. So we're not overproducing too much. Although I suppose there's no harm overproducing a little bit of concrete and just tucking it away to the side, maybe. That's true. Anyway, I'll think about it. But in the meantime, our iron ore goes off to the right as per usual. And our limestone will go to the left and curl around this way. So there are 3 iron deposits right here. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And our belt, again, just travels the opposite direction along, just on top of the iron ore here, where it meets our new bridge. So we'll talk about that in a second. But down here, we have 2 miners for limestone. So I tried to make it look kind of nice. If I could, you know, just a little bit. The bean likes it. He's happy with it. So just a little bit of, you know, some walkways, ladders, a little bit of metal every now and then to break things up. I think it looks decent. It's fine. Whatever. I also decided to keep it open air. I was quite, I really like the trailer that I assume Snut built the area that was in the recent 1.0 teaser. Yeah, it just looked really nice. A lot of it was open air, so I'd like to do that a little bit more too. Especially when I saw the sand creeping through, I was like, you could put a wall on it, it would look weird, but if you leave it open, it kind of just looks like the sand is blown in. So I think that just kind of looks a little nicer and works a bit better. Anyways, so the 2 belts from those 2 miners continue up here and join the one from way out in the distance. So then we have 3 belts in total traveling under our little bridge here. So basically they just travel like that, and we have little poles up above that carry power out this way too. If I could just hop out for a second, we can see the name of this. This is a blueprint, the steel walkway with belt support. One of the first walkways I ever built, or blueprints I ever built, sorry, in my previous series was this. So I've added LEDs on the side now. At nighttime it can look quite nice. In fact, the only mod we really run here is the Sky UI mod that lets me change the time of day. And allows you to speed up nighttime as well. But if we make it nighttime, It's kind of nice. You can see sort of the glow of the lights, maybe a little pixely or whatever, but it's kind of nice. It worked great indoors, maybe not the best outside, but I still think it looks kind of cool. These like little LED strips lining the walkway, quite neat. I'll just go back to daytime. What a great mod that is, huh? Sky UI. Alright, anyways, so this bridge just continues on here. I didn't need to put the poles up on top. I was going to use it as a zip line, but then I might just get rid of them now. It's a pretty short distance. Anyway, we take a hard left turn here. The bridge stops at this point and just becomes a standard walkway that connects the two areas. You could extend it over, or I could, you know, to make it look exactly the same, but I kind of like the idea that we can see the delineation between the logistics and just a walkway. Anyways, so we know that under here is our 3 limestone deposits, each doing 300, so the one on the left goes all the way down to this area. We already have a miner right there, so in total there are 4 miners, 4 belts, and 10 machines. Perfectly divided, right? Well, pretty much. It's divided into quarters, so each miner is to reach 2.5 machines. So that's the way we've got it. So the 2 belts that are going this way, if we just follow them really quickly, I'll slide along here, and you can basically see they just break off and go in to a splitter right here, then another splitter, and then a merger, because it's a half, right? We're taking the other half from that side and this side and combining it to get into there. So hopefully that'll work out. I think it will. And then we have the one on the bottom that flows along and just gets to the end of the machine. So the next thing is going to be hooking up water. Like I said, I think we have the appropriate height, so let's get working on that in a moment, and then we'll power it all on. Now for the outputs, basically there are 2 separate lines for the outputs, because if we have, let's see, 80 times 5 would be 400, so we'll have 400 traveling on each belt. Ooh, God, that's a little misaligned. I'll have to fix that. I'll fix it in a moment. That's a bit of an annoying one to fix, but I can do it. Alright, so anyways, this continues out this way, and the very same bridge, we just have the same blueprint traveling along into the building itself. So I had to raise it, because obviously if we just brought it in there, the belts would be kind of underground. I want the belts to be, you know, on the ground, I guess. And just coming in this way. So the 2 travel together, and then we go around to the back. This is the only bit of awkwardness. We had to go up and over some of the storage containers we have there. Might be a good idea to provide storage container buffers actually somewhere here or along this way too, because they're going to need it before they go into the train station. So then we just have the 2 inputs and lifts that go all the way up. If we just fly all the way up here, we can see that they're going into the first carriage, the first freight platform. So yeah, we'll be carrying the concrete into there. So what did I say? It was going to be 400 each. So yeah, we could do 800 concrete and leave some left over actually, just so we can go pick it up now and then to do building with. Makes sense. Why not just run the whole thing at 100%? And we know the numbers we're taking, but might as well just, for the sake of a tiny bit of extra power, we could just make sure these all run at 100%. I think that'd be totally fine. In fact, it would probably make things easier for the water as well. So it's 100 water per machine, so 1,000 water in total. So 1,000 divided by 120, so we need 8.333. Now, if I didn't leave it at 100%, it would have needed a very peculiar 937.5, which is 7.8. So it is an extra water extractor, but whatever. A little bit of extra concrete I think is fine. Okay, so let's get setting up with the water. Alright, that should be the first pipe area done. It was actually really quick to set up. So I basically just went down 2 foundations and then had a foundation here just underneath at the bottom. So just like this, little foundation that would creep out at the bottom like that. Brought it out as far as it needed to go, whatever, just 10 foundations. Put down the junction in the center. That aligned one of the first extractors with the junction. Then just, you know, put the junctions right the extractors right next to each other, then flipped them, put them next to each other, got rid of the one at the end, set them all to be 100. So they're all underclocked the same way, so they're all putting out 100 water per minute. Built the pipe down along the center, then removed the foundations and replaced it with the walkway, as it looks just a little nicer. And we can have this walkway connect out to the other lane as well, because we're going to do the same just a bit further over that way. So that's basically it. It's a Mark II pipe because it's traveling 500 water per minute, so that's just traveling dead straight and then going into this row. We're going to do the other row now, where we feed it from the left side and bring it out somewhere along here. So I'm just going to basically copy what I just did there and do it again. Alright, just like that, we have a basic mirror copy of the other side, all underclocked to 100 per minute instead of 120. So that's now feeding into this row right here, and I've also hooked it up to a little power switch so that we can control just the flow of water. That way we can fill the refineries first before we let the refineries power on and start cooking up that limestone and turn it into concrete. I think we're pretty much ready to go. We just have to hook everything up to power now, up to mains power. So I'm just going to get working on that. It's going to do a little cable management, and then we'll start the process once I get that done. Alright, I pulled the switch for the refineries to come on. I forgot to do that. And they're all receiving their water now. That's pretty good. So obviously I would need a sort of belt release kind of switch again if I wanted to have the limestone turn off and on, but I think it'll be okay given this kind of setup. So there's the limestone there, just starting to move in now. So let's hook these two up. It's that one and this one. Now I'll just double check that they're actually overclocked, because they might not be. Yeah, this one's not. And then this one as well. And that's better. Alright, cool. So we'll just wait for the other belt to catch up, and then we'll turn on that last machine. Nice, nice and consistent. 300 in every belt. Love it. Alright, cool. Alright, so that's going to be flowing underneath me. We could just about see some of it making its way out here. It seems consistent, no smaller or slower belts just yet anywhere. And then finally, we need to turn this one on. And that's already overclocked, so that's going to be them all. I'm hoping by now these guys are all completely full. Yeah, seems like it's okay. Yep, I'm seeing 50 across the board. The water is totally full. In fact, these have already... Oh my god, wow. Okay, it was super quick. I guess it is like, what, 400 or 500 per minute? Yeah, makes sense then it would fill after 2 minutes. But there we go. We're going to start firing on now and throwing out our wet concrete. Hopefully I've hooked up the logistics of sending this out correct. These are Mark II belts. It is 100... Oh no, it's 80 per minute. Yep, that's okay then. And then we zoom along. Concrete all joins the main bus. Oh, there we go. Love to see it, huh? Now these walkways can extend further into this mini factory area, and they can put a roof and some walls on it or something. Could be nice. There we go. Yeah, so it looks really consistent. It just isn't receiving anything. So why is that? Ah, the train is here right now. That's why. Oh yeah, that's something I forgot to do. Buffers. I did mention it earlier and then just didn't do it. So we'll put one here. Is that correct? So the thing is here. Yep, that's fine. So just some small buffers to allow the belts not to get backed up like you just saw. So that should be fine. Everything will go through, but when the train gets here and backs things up, it'll stall just for a little bit. Alright, we'll get rid of this one and do the same. The reason I did them on opposite ends of the up and over thing is because they can't go next to each other for that same spacing. Well, they can't, but they'd clip through each other if they could. So this way we're allowed to kind of spread out where we put those buffers. Alright, there we go. I guess I'll keep what I have on me. Oh, look at that. Nice and thick. Not a gap on the belt. Of course, there will be in the future. So how much is that? It's 400 each, right? Yeah, it's 80 times 5. So 400 on each belt. So 800 concrete is what we make. We needed 750. So we have a little surplus for us. We're going to probably either set up an awesome sink or just say, yeah, probably an awesome sink and a storage container. Maybe back there, actually, for where we unload it. That makes sense. So that way we can just go into that factory and pick it up rather than coming out to this outpost. Ideally, we don't ever have to really come out here. So now I have to wait for the train to come around again. And then make sure I set the setting correctly on the opposite end of things to load the concrete. And then we have to send it into a bunch of assemblers and mix that with the steel beam. And then we finally have our encased industrial beams. Alright, and right on time, the train is here. And it's actually already got a tiny piece. It's got 2 concrete in the front carriage. That's funny. I should get a decent whack now, though. About 2,000. Wow. Just in the time it went back and forth, it's going to pick up 2,000. So that belts are going to stop, but they will just be loading those instead. And because we're feeding them less than 480, we're feeding 400 per minute. It's actually kind of perfect. That'll work out really nicely. That 80 per minute build up. As long as this doesn't take more than a couple of minutes, that should still be fine, I think. Alright, there we go. Just toggled the setting really quickly, so now we should see the first bit of concrete actually unloading into here. So 800 per minute. Not bad. Pretty easy. Just took a little bit of setup to make it look kind of decent, but yeah, just basically some miners and 10 refineries. Really not that bad. There we go. Drop it in. Awesome, so that's about 2,000 that we just received. So now, the idea is that we're going to go straight up, but there's a light sort of in the way. Right, so that's now being fed upstairs. I will just have to catch it upstairs in some containers, just so that it actually has a bit of a buffer as well on this side. Alright, with the fencing now in place, that gives us a bit more consistency here. So basically, no buffer on this side just yet. We'll have the buffer upstairs for these, so the concrete will just be flowing up. So we head upstairs. I've just been meaning to do this for a while. Let's just coat that. There we go. Alright, so this is where it's coming out. Perfect area, because there's like nothing going on here. And yeah, we'll send it out that way and hit into the assemblers over there. Alright, so just took a little bit of a break and then also designed some blueprints and made sure I have all the material now to continue. So, here we have our two containers filling up nicely with concrete at about 6,000 each. We have our steel beam, or beams, on 4 different rows here, all kind of combining. So, basically, we're just going to set it all up out here. So, I think, seeing as these belts are sort of aligned with each other, it'd be nice to kind of use stackable poles to kind of bring them out that way together, and then maybe the concrete can go out this way. So that's kind of at least what I'm thinking. So we'll just get rid of these 2 blueprints here, open this area up. There we go. And start working out this way. So like I said, I just made a couple new blueprints. So we have now the Stacked Assemblers 6 EIB, so Encased Industrial Beams. We want the outputs on the far on the far side and the inputs on this side. So again, to line this up, well, we don't have to line it up this way. Instead, we need to just make sure we are clear. So something like that. So maybe 2 foundations on each side would be good. So we could shift this over so that our mergers are in the center of the foundation. That centers our splitters. So this gives us the room to travel along this way and then cut in, and then travel along this way and cut in as well. Alright, cool. Alright, Stacked Assembler 6. So we're going to need 25. So using 6 or 3 on a row at a time is a little awkward, but I think we just basically need 5 of these, and then we can trim some off the end. So there's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right, so 5 times 3 would be 15, so we need to get rid of 2, and then change the last one to a 50%. So I'll just do that, just hack away these guys. Alright, there we go. So now all the belts are hooked up, all the power lines are connected to each machine, and I've also just cleared the walls that was kind of separating the 2 rooms, as it's just going to extend the walls all the way out to the very edge now, and just have a big large room basically all the way up here. So the next thing I just realized is that I need to sort of clear out the truck station that we're going to be aiming things into. So if we just head downstairs very quickly, and I don't know if I have what I need, but hopefully I do, to build an awesome sink. I do. So yeah, so our truck station that these beams are going into is here, right? So the regular steel beams right now is totally full up. So what I'm going to do is kind of temporarily create, I guess just somewhere here on the road. It doesn't really matter where. Maybe one there and another one here. We can do a little spaghetti on this one. But just grab a belt and send it into each of these. So we're going to drain this thing. Now, in order to just prevent it consistently filling up, we can talk to our little smart splitters here and say, don't let anything through. Just use the overflow. So it'll just continue to go out into the awesome sinks that are behind me. So we're letting nothing through. So that means that we should just start draining into these once we obviously give them power. So I'll just put a power pole here and there, and just hook this up to one of the nodes on the walls. So just a super lazy way of just me draining all the steel beams from inside of this thing. I might just grab a little bit right now because I do need just a small amount, but other than that, I think we're pretty much fine, good to go. So just let this cook in the background. You know, that's going to be draining at 480 per minute for each belt, so it's about 1,000 per minute. There's 9,000 in there, so, you know, give or take 10 minutes, and that'll be empty, and then we can start sending in the encased industrial beams. So I just wanted to make sure we got that done in the background. Right, so being back upstairs, we can see all of our beams are still traveling down that way, so now we're going to change the layout of the logic here, so that we're, instead of turning that way, we're just going to continue on straight, and then start feeding into these inputs down this way. Just trying to gauge the height. It looks like we're a little higher up than I'd like it to be, but that's alright, we'll just work it out. Okay, so what we can do here is just get a conveyor lift. Just make sure it's in line, and then rotate that around. So that's just going to sit on top of that. Totally fine. We'll just make it Mark IV as well. There we go. Alright, so these are all Mark III belts. So I can just continue along here now in a straight line into this merger. And the same for out this way. We're going to change around the direction of this one. Right, so on the bottom layer of this side now, we just go straight out. That's where it was going before. Now it's just going to turn and come down 2. And then merge into there. So that's our bottom 2 rows. Each row is doing 150, so 150, 150, 150, and 150. So 600 in total. So this is now combining up to 300 per minute, which can travel on the Mark IV belt and go straight out that way. We'll just align these as well to make life a little easier and more consistent. And we're Mark IV out of our minds now, and that can continue along this way. There we go. Alright, cool. So that's half of our steel beams ready to go. So we need to do the other half now. So very simply, I guess we'll just get this merger to do the same thing as we did before, but just continue all the way up until we know we're at the right height, which is there. And get rid of the stack in the middle. Get our Mark... Man, I can't wait to get a hover pack, because damn, it's a pain in the ass flying around here. Right, Mark III goes in there. This one then doesn't actually need to be a merger anymore. Get rid of that and that. This just needs to be a belt that turns, just like this one here. So in order to do that, we'll just follow where we dropped that node. And send that up to where it needs to go. Again, Mark III. Hopefully that's the right height. In fact, it's too high, so that's good. Let's go there. In you go. Now we can get rid of the top bit. Bonk. Alright, so now this is going to continue up till it gets in line with its buddy. And the same with this one. Is that correct? Yep. Alright, so there we go. So we've redirected where our steel beams are going. They're heading out this way now, so 300 and 300. So one has to go into the top row and one has to go into the bottom row. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so there was a lot of trial and error involved in getting the logistics set up, and I've definitely overcomplicated it. So because of that, I'll probably cut a lot of that out, because it was a lot of like, oh, should I do this, place this here, can't get the height right, you know, all of this just like little bit of things that would just make the video longer. So let's just explain what's going on, shall we? So we would have seen here, at least, I would hope, that our steel beams are rolling out on the new mergers, right? So we reverse the direction of these belts. We have mergers here that then send them out, running sort of parallel, well, not even parallel, just in line above the steel pipes, but in the opposite direction. So we've done that a few times now. Might brighten this up as well, because it's just a bit dark. Need to obviously paint these belts. So there's our steel beams, 300 on each belt, rolling into this contraption that you see in front of me. So everything in red, at least right here, is just for overflow. So if any of the steel gets backed up or the concrete gets backed up, some of the steel or concrete will overflow and merge onto the same line and go towards an awesome sink. Some of it will first get filtered into storage containers. So until these containers get full of steel beam and concrete, this will never activate. So that's the situation. So it probably looks more complicated than it is, but we could just see one piece of steel just rolled in there. So why would steel be overflowing? Well, basically, as the concrete is making its way down the manifold slowly, And because the stack size is higher for concrete, it takes much longer for concrete to fill up all the machines than it does for steel. So even though I'm supplying the correct amount of everything, in fact I'm oversupplying concrete, steel is the one that's actually getting backed up, because steel has filled all the machines and it's really just waiting on concrete. So you can just see it kind of jitter a little bit and get pushed back, and that's why a little bit of steel just rolls out every now and then. I foresee in the future, because we do consume 600 per minute and we produce 600 per minute, that container may never actually totally fill. But the concrete should, because if you remember from before, we're overproducing concrete by about 50 per minute. I needed 750 and we ended up just producing 800, not changing any of the clock speed of the machines, just because it was all there to be had anyway. So I do foresee in the future one of these containers getting full with concrete slowly and then overflowing into our awesome sink. So that's the situation. So basically all of these have just been hooked up, right? We have straight lines all the way down, and we're making now encased industrial beams 75 on the top row and 75 on the bottom row, and that's then making its way out. Are these Mark II? Just wondering why that's slow. I wonder, are we using a Mark I belt somewhere? Ah, we are. We're using a Mark I lift right here, and there's a floating window. Well, we caught it. Is that Mark II? That's Mark II. Good. Right, well anyway, that'll continue the 75 per minute. So that's flowing downstairs now. I don't have a neat way of getting downstairs just yet, so we'll just hop down here. And I've obviously allowed the pass-through now on the smart splitters here to just send out the encased industrial beams, and I've removed the awesome sinks because we fully drained the truck station. So we've made a total of just around 600 at the moment for encased industrial beams. And the final thing will be to change what it says here. It says S-beam, so I'll say that'll be E. I. So that's encased industrial beams. That keeps it symmetrical, right? So we have all the letters being used. EI beams at number 3. So it's as easy as that, right? We have a truck station now producing encased industrial beams. We finally modified this factory. So it was a hell of a journey, but it's done. So we'll mark that off. The assembler's in place and the transport's in place. The next thing to do now, so I'll get rid of almost all of this. Alright, so as you can see, I'm just going to look up to the ceiling. The to-do list says that the encased industrial beams are now completed, modular frames are next, and then heavy modular frames. I reckon these two will be quicker than all of that, as less machines need to be placed overall. So let's get to it. Right, so I'm here at the silicon factory looking up the modular frame recipe. We're going to use the one that uses steel pipe. Now, I currently make 40 reinforced iron plates per minute. We're going to use all of them. So 40 divided by 2 is obviously 20, so 20 machines are needed, which means 200 steel pipe is needed, which is fine. We have 800, excuse me, and that should produce 60 modular frames per minute. The problem here is that we need to deliver in reinforced iron plate, and then I also need to deliver in the encased industrial beams, because I might as well just make the heavy modular frames here, because we have the room to do it. But it does mean that that particular truck is going to have its route changed, because this road needs to go. Because we need to put in another truck station. We need to put in 2 more. Alright, so I've been making some adjustments. I've removed all of the awesome sinks. I've added in our extra truck stations. They have a tremendous amount of space between them. We have a whole warehouse now at the back, and you can see where the old road ended and where the new road is now. I've also redriven the route for our rubber truck, and I've even shortened it, so it's going to use less fuel, so that's good. Because previously it went all the way around and then came in this way, but I've decided that this is wide enough for trucks to go down on the left and come up on the right. It should be fine. Don't think they'll deadlock or hit each other. I haven't had that issue yet, so hopefully it'll be all good. Right, so we have to designate what's going to do what. So this is probably going to be steel pipe, and this is probably going to be reinforced iron plate, and that's probably going to be encased industrial beams. That's just going to be coming in from straight over there. With that knowledge in mind, we can now build some of our new blueprints. The stacked assemblers 4, so 2 stacked on 2, mod frames. So I kind of wanted them to line up basically with the outputs of these, although it doesn't have to. It's not that important, but it'd be just kind of nice, I suppose, if it did. That's why I moved the awesome sinks. So something like that. And maybe we could start almost in the center. Is that alright? Well, we're aligned with the foundation. I guess this is good enough. Oh yeah, actually that matters for this, doesn't it? Yeah. So you want that to be accurate. Same with this. Okay, cool. Looks like we're aligned, so that's 1. So we need 20 of these. So 10 on the bottom, 10 on the top. So 5 blueprints in total. Alright, easy as that. We're laying out so many of these stacked blueprints, it's crazy, but they do work, so it's pretty good. I would love to do a more, stop using manifolds all the time, but I'm just always against it for time, so I feel like it's just the quickest and easiest way to do it. But it does mean things take a little bit of time to ramp up. Alright, so you know the drill. I'm going to hook these up, connect all the belts, and then we'll start actually making the truck routes and feeding in the stuff it needs. Alright, that should do it. And we need a Mark II belt to go right in there. Is it the right height? So there we go. So that's steel pipes. Once we make the delivery, that'll be done. Now we just need to feed... Oh, and of course, should have done this. There we go. So now we just got to do the same for the bottom row. So that could just come from... Again, it's going to be coming from one of these truck stations here. Cool. So now we just need to bring this belt all the way in line with the truck station here. So let's grab this and push it back by 2. Okay, so that'll be that. So now I just need to actually drive these routes. So I'll just make sure, again, this is vehicle settings unload, and we'll do the same for, oops, do the same for the one down here. The first truck route I'll do is the steel pipe. We'll just quickly make a route over to the coke factory again. Oh, and I should hook these up to power. And actually, I haven't hooked up their output. Although the output is going to be just modular frames, right? And that's going to go upstairs and be fully consumed in manufacturers for the heavy modular frames. So don't need to hook up the outputs just yet until we actually get the manufacturers in position. There's so much space right here. And if we're taking in encased industrial beams over there, probably makes sense just to put the manufacturers out here rather than go up a floor. I don't know why. I just thought we'd go up a floor, but don't really need to. Alright, there we go. First delivery of steel pipe going in. And you can see it rolling up to the upper layer as well. Still have to finish this route though, so we'll just pull off now. Get back into the middle of the kind of circuit. And then rejoin the road. Alright, so here I am at the iron factory. So this place is making 40 reinforced iron plates per minute. Gonna set up a new truck route to pull that out of the stations that are here and drive it all the way over to our silicon factory. It's a bit of a long distance for this one, but should be fine. Alright, there we have it. The truck is now doing its own thing, which we'd love to see. So, there's only one more truck to go, the encased industrial beams, and then we can set up the manufacturers and feed everything into them, and that should be, I think, 22.5 heavy modular frames per minute. Alright, so, our steel pipes are in position, as are our reinforced plates. They've arrived. Now we need to actually lay out the manufacturers, because I want to put them down first before I hook up the outputs for the modular frames, and obviously when we hook it up to power. So we've got all of this play space to work with. I thought we were going to build up there, but it seems to just make a bit more sense to keep it down on the ground. It's because where all the other stuff is going to be coming in, so that's what I'm going to do. So I was thinking, I have a blueprint that I've just made, this one. I was thinking of just having them kind of like this, in a line here. Haven't really worked out if these are going to line up with anything in particular, but they might do. So yeah, do we want to push this back even further? Sure, why not? So the way I've done it is I've reversed, so there's 4 inputs, I've reversed 2 of them. So the 2 top ones are coming from that direction, and the 2 bottom ones are coming from this one. I'm just wondering, is that right? Yeah, this seems fine. We'll just work around it. It probably isn't the most elegant way to do it, but it's fine. It's going to be a little crisscrossy for some of the belts. Now, we need 8 of them, I think, in total. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So yeah, this is so far down, actually. It does beg the question if they needed to be reversed as much. Alright, so now that the 8 manufacturers in place, I still need to hook up the logistics, but I thought we could do the math really quickly. So 7.5 modular frames times 8, that's 60. We've established that that's what we'll be making. 9.375 encased industrial beam times 8, that's 75. So that's half of the encased industrial beams we make. So we make 150, we're going to take away 75. For the steel pipe, it's 33.75. which is 270, so that should be fine, especially considering we're also taking another 200, so that's 470. We make 800, so that leaves us, what, 330? Yeah. Then there's concrete. We actually haven't talked about that yet. We're going to make concrete here. I have a little leftover limestone that's going into an overflow. It's getting handled by an overflow splitter, and we're going to have to send it upstairs, make it into concrete, and then bring it back down. So that'll be the one little awkward bit, but we've got more than enough, so I wouldn't worry about that. So gonna hook up the logistics, hook up the power, get the ball rolling on modular frames maybe, and then we'll do the concrete. Alright, there we have it, steel pipe rolling in. So interestingly here, this entire road uses 270 steel pipe, and here we need 200. So I've taken a belt of 480, and I've just gone with a standard splitter. So in theory, the modular frames would fill up first, and when they get backfilled, then the extra spillover will go through this way. So hopefully that'll all work out and be okay. Should be fine. This is a belt of 270, so as long as this belt is full, everything should be running just fine in these machines. Now, just interestingly, I've just noticed, is it not taking? Because they are turned on. Huh. Oh yeah, I just changed the direction of these, so I have to redeploy the lifts. And it's good that we caught that. Alright, there we go. So the steel pipe is now being fed. So I've turned on the machines because it'll just speed up the manifold if we can at least fill 3 of the 4 things all at once. And then maybe we could even just manually fill the last ones just to speed everything up in the starting process. But looking good so far. So the next thing then would be the modular frames. So let's get that sorted. So it turns out there was an issue with this blueprint. This belt isn't hooked up. So none of the reinforced iron plates were going through. Also, the wrong recipe was selected. I didn't even notice. It was making reinforced iron plates and not making modular frames. So quite the mistake. Couple of big mistakes there. So that blueprint definitely needs to be adjusted before giving it out. But this should fix it. I think the top layer seems to be okay because I'm seeing modular frames roll out up there. But I'll just double check in a moment. Let's get rid of this one and make sure that's okay. Right. Yeah, a bit of faffery. But yeah, it looks like these ones are actually okay. Alright, yep, they're all working okay. It's just going to take a while for the manifold to get rolling, but now we should have modular frames rolling around and going into the manufacturers as well, loading those guys up. I'll line up it there. 1, 2. Oh, there we go. It's working. The encased industrial beams have arrived. Alright, and that should be that. I'll have to reconnect this lift, but other than that, we should be good. Cool. Alright, 75 per min. Rolling along. Well, 150 are going to be basically getting delivered here, but we're only going to be consuming 75, so once it all kind of gets backed up, it just works out at 75. But yeah, oh, and what's this? That's a Mark 1 lift. There we go. I was thinking it looked a bit gappy on the belt. Should be a little bit better now. So we like to see. There we go. Industrial beams rolling along. So the very last thing then is going to be the concrete. And that should be easy enough. Right, so I've just found out some quite interesting math that has worked out really well in my favor. So when we first built this factory, the Silica factory, all the limestone that's coming in, there's 4 deposits that we're bringing in. And I think there's 520 left over in overflow. Limestone, that is. Just sat here, not doing anything. So I haven't actually hooked it up yet, but this would be why a smart splitter is here. It's not connected to anything. It was just to remind me that, hey, 520.02, if you want to get super accurate, limestone is left over. So I've just been doing a little bit of math. Originally, I was going to mix in that limestone with some of the silica produced here, because we make tons of silica here, to get a lot of limestone out, or a lot of concrete out, excuse me. Right? So it seemed like a pretty good ratio. But I don't really need to just stack concrete for no reason. Maybe I'll need it in the future? Question mark? But I suppose I could always adapt the factory if I really need to. I'd rather just get this done now because this video is long enough. with their standard recipe, because 520 limestone is enough to provide what we need for those 8 manufacturers just with the standard recipe. So just using constructors, no more assemblers needed, we can just get a line of these. So it's 45 per minute. So let's say we have 520 overflow divided by 45, that's 11 machines, 11 and a half machines. And they're making 15, so that's 173. 173. Now I believe, if we have a look at the heavy modular frame recipe that we're using, it's 20.625. Man, the number's now 625 times 8. That's 165. So we just said that we can make 173. So we'll still be making a little bit more than we even need to. So I'm super happy with that. It's almost perfect. Almost. It's much more close to the number we actually would require. So, yeah. So basically, this just needs to have some sort of overflow. It needs to go upstairs, and we'll shoot concrete all the way down. A bunch of constructors, and then see what happens from there. So just really quickly, if this is going to be the point, let's just take this, chop it away. I'll head upstairs now and see how things are looking for putting constructors up there. I think we've got the room for it. Yeah, because there's nothing going on this side of the factory, so totally fine. So we could just bring that limestone along here, maybe have a row of constructors in front of these manufacturers, and send it down the line. Alright, the limestone is flowing. This is so exciting because it's the final component. It's been taking so long, but there we go. Limestone should now be rolling into our constructors, making concrete. That'll be fired out the other side, and it's going to roll all the way down. I've hooked up the logistics now. Let's follow it and see where it's going to be going. So we go up and over our rubber, which is coming in this way. And then we flow along down here. Hard bank to the right, and then we drop down. So we drop straight down, and we're into this complicated area here where the modular frames are coming out. So everything's backed up right now because the manufacturers are waiting to churn through this stuff. So that's what the concrete's for. Anyway, so this is going to be flowing along here. So I did make the little adjustment. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I pushed back the lift for the steel pipes there. So we're able to have nice clearance underneath them and just roll straight in. So hopefully it'll all work out. That's the plan anyway. I don't think with a 480 belt, we're not going to be able to run this. Let's just assume 480 is going to be running. Oh yeah, actually I know what it is. Sorry. So 165 is the amount of concrete that we make right now. But we need to say, so there's 11 machines. They're making 15 each, so we make 165, right? So 11 constructors are making 165. Those 11 constructors are demanding 495 concrete, which we cannot, we can't feed in. So there's nothing really I can do about that other than splitting belts, but I just don't want to bother with any of that until we get to the point where we just have the belt in the future, you know? Otherwise it's quite a complicated extra design. So what I'm probably going to do is just switch off the machine on the end. And then we'll just let these start firing. So we'll turn this one off. And that's still 7. So 7 should be doable. And that's 7 times... How much are we making? 2.813. So 2.813. That's 19.691. When we do have the full 8, it's a much nicer 22.5. But yeah, 19.69. So I guess 19.7 heavy modular frames per minute is what we should be producing. Alright. So yeah, just for a bit of a recap, a lot has happened in this episode now. Oh, it's so good. I'm just so happy finally seeing them roll out. And finally, it's a good number, you know, around 20 per minute. It's not amazing, it's not huge, but for where we are in the game, it's pretty good. I'm happy with it. And it'll get us to the adaptive control units, it'll get us to the next tier, comfortably, I would say. But yeah, so much has happened. So we have the encased industrial beams now modified into the coke factory, replacing steel beams in total. We now have modular frames in production here, 60 per minute, which fully get consumed by all of these manufacturers, now producing up to, when we get it fully running, 22.5 heavy modular frames. And that meant adding a bunch of new trucks, truck stations, expanding this factory, getting steel pipes in there, concrete, modular frames, adding the circuit boards and computers upstairs in between episodes. So much has been happening in this factory. And what we still have to do, there's lots to do. We might do this on a stream now, throw back in the awesome sinks, get the whole place running at 100%, get rid of all those yellow lights and things like that so that we can kind of more accurately gauge the power draw that we have now. I can't remember what it was. I think it was around 14,000 before adding all of these things. So we've added probably about 1,000, 1,600 or something like that megawatts of power. Quite a bit. Manufacturers do take a chunky amount. What is it, like 50 or something? Yeah, 55. Tis a lot. Tis a lot. But yeah, I want to do some cosmetics now to this side of the factory and enclose it and finish it off. The idea is that what's produced here will probably exit. There might be a road that comes in here and sends it out onto that main road, or onto this one. So, you know, trucks along here, sorry, truck stations along here or along that way probably makes a bit more sense if it's open. And that can export the silica and the heavy modular frames, maybe some of the extra circuit boards and computers if we've any left over. So quite a lot can actually come out of this factory, which is quite nice. Really happy with it now. What's going on here? Oh, they're just full. That's good. Well, that's a good problem to have. Yeah, things are getting backed up because we just need to put in some awesome things. Alright, so I think that's going to have to be it for this episode. Really happy with overall everything that's been added. I felt like computers and circuit boards especially were really quick to do, so with some decent foundations, adding some of the more complex things has been relatively pain-free. Quite happy about that. I've seen with this recording, it's a bit weird, right? We've a lot of cuts in it, jumping over a lot of how I built things, because there's no dedicated plan to it, basically. And also, since then, I've seen that Coffee Stain have been talking a little bit more about 1.0, and they're going on their classic Swedish vacation for the summer. I've no doubt that they've, you know, pre-planned and are aware that that would be happening, and they have everything basically ready to go now. So it's exciting times, you know, around the, you know, probably won't hear from them for like a month, but then I imagine we'll hear everything from them with regards to what's happening in 1.0. And they kind of confirmed as well that, you know, it's mostly endgame stuff. So it again just brings me back to that question at the beginning of the episode, is what should I do? Rush ahead? We've got 60 days or so till it comes out. Try to finish the game in 60 days, or just know that it's probably going to restart and start again with the story mode on, or what, you know. Just have to see what you guys think. So I could waffle on about it for quite a while. We'll just leave it there. That's going to be it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.